Right now we're taking a look at how to use PHP with links or GET requests. And in the last movie we made two simple pages with a link between them, and now we want to find out how we can send a value like ID equals 1 from page 1, our first page, over to page 2, our second page. And we're going to want to do that using PHP. So let's drop in a block of PHP code here. And inside that PHP code, let's echo back the value of ID. Now, we haven't gotten the value yet from the URL, so if we just tried this on its own and tried to run second page, it would say that value is not defined, and we know that from our previous experimentations. So what we need now is a way to get the value from the URL. And luckily, PHP does something very helpful for us. It takes everything that was sent in that URL string as a value, everything that comes after the question mark, and puts it into an array where we can access it. And that array is what's called a superglobal. We talked about global variables before. This is a superglobal. That just means that it's available to us before our page even starts. PHP has already defined it. And the way we access it is with a $sign and an underscore and a capital GET. That is the name of the superglobal variable. And that's why earlier I said we might not want to name our variables with an underscore in front of them, is because the superglobals are going to be named that way. So this is an array called underscore get, and I'll frequently just call it get. Our get array has our ID inside of it. And we can actually see that if we instead, let's go ahead and temporarily comment out echo ID, and instead let's use our fancy array printout and do print R, and let's just do all of get as a print R and see what that gives us back. So let's go over here and let's reload second page, which is already up in my browser. And you'll see that it came back and it told me that nothing was in there. Because I've just loaded the page on its own, there was nothing for it to get. But let's do get equals ID equals 1. And now it tells me ID is equal 1. And you can play with this. This doesn't have to be ID, obviously. It could be name equals, and we put in Kevin. It'll come back and it's set a value in this get superglobal array that I can then access. And we know how to access associative arrays like that. Let's go ahead and change it back to ID for now so that we can work with it. And we're going to ask it for ID equals 1. So there we are. And over here, all we have to do, instead of outputting our get, let's go ahead and just make a new line. And we're going to set a variable called ID equal to underscore get. And then with the brackets, we'll specify the name that we want. I'm looking for ID. We learned how to do that when we were working with associative arrays. And then we'll be able to echo back the ID because now we've set a value for it. And let's go ahead, just to make sure that we see the difference here, let's go ahead and echo not just the ID, let's put strong tags around it, just so that we can see the difference. Let's go back and reload our page. And there it is, in bold. We can even put a BR tag at the beginning to make it show up on a new line. There we go. In bold, the number 1. And if we change this ID to be something else, let's make it 32. It comes back and has 32. So now using that get superglobal and referencing it the way we reference associative arrays, we can call it by its label and then pull that down so we can work with it in our PHP code. And that's going to be essential because now, for example, if we go back over to our page 1, and let's make it so that now the ID is equal to, let's say, 42. I'll save that page, and let's load up first page.php. It has a link, and that link you can see by looking at the status bar in the bottom of Firefox is going to take us to secondpage.php with ID equals 42. We'll click on it, and sure enough, here it is. It pulled down 42 so we can work with it. So already, we've made our website a lot more dynamic because we can send values between pages by using those links. And we can even send multiple values in the same way. For example, let's go here and let's put in a second variable, and this one will be name equals, and we'll put in Kevin. And the way we separate those in HTML is to put the ampersand between the values. So that's going to tell us that there's another key value pair coming up, and we can get those in the same way. Let's save that file, switch back to second page, and now in addition to this one, let's get another value, which is going to be name. There we go. And now we can output not just the ID, but we'll go ahead and put in colon, and we'll do this one using the curly braces with name. And we know how to use both of those. We could convert this to curly braces as well, but it's going to substitute the variable inline there. Let's go ahead and try that. We'll go back to first page and reload it. And now when we click on it, we get both variables back, name and the ID. But this raises an issue that we should address, which is what happens if the name we wanted here actually contained an ampersand in it? What if there were other characters there, question marks or equal signs, things like that, that normally would have a meaning in the URL? Well, we're going to need to do something to make sure that those values get passed along cleanly, and we'll look at that in our next movie.